What's up, fight fans? Minseo here, and we have absolute madness to unpack today. He has been out of the octagon for nearly 5 years, but the biggest star in the history of combat sports is officially back. Conor McGregor is returning, and the details dropping right now are absolutely insane. Today, we are breaking down the reality of his UFC return on July 11th. We are diving deep into the messy contract realities holding him back, the real reason the Michael Chandler fight evaporated, and the shocking timeline the UFC is trying to lock him into. Plus, Conor finally breaks his silence on the USADA testing drama and the devastating leg injury that almost ended it all. Grab your favorite snack, hit that like button, and let's get right into the biggest MMA story of the year. Let's kick things off with the actual fight. July 11th, Las Vegas. Conor McGregor is making the walk. But the opponent is the biggest twist. It is a massive rematch against the BMF champion, Max Holloway. The UFC pulled the trigger on this fan-favorite matchup instead of waiting around. Conor sounds incredibly confident, reminding everyone that he already sunned Max back in 2013. When asked about Holloway's insane evolution over the last decade, Conor bluntly stated he doesn't see much of a difference in his game. He expects to walk in and completely dominate the Hawaiian striker. Regardless of Conor's assessment, this is a stylistic dream for the fans. No wrestling, just pure striking between two of the absolute biggest names in the sport. The Mac is back, and he is hunting for the BMF. So, where does that leave Michael Chandler? Chandler waited 2 full years, coached against Conor on The Ultimate Fighter, and bet his entire prime on this red panty night. According to Conor, he wanted Chandler. He directly asked for Chandler. But the UFC simply decided to go in a different direction. Conor had the July 11th date locked in on his contract, but the UFC brass were the ones who ultimately selected Max Holloway as the opponent. Conor revealed the promotion threw around a few names, including Diego Lopes at 155 pounds, which Conor accepted instantly. But the contract never materialized. Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier weren't even discussed. Ultimately, the UFC pivoted entirely to Holloway, leaving Michael Chandler completely out in the cold after years of waiting for the biggest payday of his life. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the infamous pinky toe injury. A lot of fans completely turned on Conor when the Chandler fight fell apart, calling him a pullout merchant. But Conor finally set the record straight on what actually happened. 3 weeks before the scheduled bout, he was doing a flow spar session with absolutely no protective gear. A straight kick caught an elbow, completely shattering his baby toe. Conor said the pain was excruciating. After a career of fighting compromised and constantly adjusting his style to protect training camp injuries, he drew a hard line in the sand. He refused to make the walk at less than 100%. He took the criticism on the chin, healed up properly, and now claims his body is completely rested and sharper than ever. Behind the scenes, the business of Conor McGregor is getting incredibly tense. Conor revealed he only has exactly 2 fights remaining on his current UFC deal. And the most shocking part? The UFC hasn't even attempted to offer him an extension yet. When discussing his pay for this upcoming bout, Conor admitted they had to meet in the middle. Because the UFC's current broadcast deals guarantee money regardless of pay-per-view buys, the traditional point structure had to be heavily negotiated. Conor knows his worth, and he knows the UFC didn't want to offer his true market value. He stated he's a fair operator who loves the company. So he compromised to get the deal done and get back into the cage. But make no mistake, the tension over his true value is brewing. This brings us to the most bizarre and frustrating revelation of the entire interview, Conor's actual contract structure. He already has the dates locked in for his final 2 fights. Fight number 1 is July 11th against Holloway. But fight number 2? The UFC legally locked it in for April 2027. Yes, you heard me right. The UFC has contractually scheduled almost a 3-year gap between his remaining fights. Conor himself called the timeline completely ridiculous, stating he wants to fight as consistently as possible. This massive gap feels like a blatant negotiation tactic by the UFC to stretch out his contract, keeping their biggest star locked down and preventing him from testing the free agency market anytime in the near future. It is essentially a hostage situation disguised as a fight contract. Despite the contract friction and the absurd 2027 timeline, Conor is still breaking the bank. He confirmed that when he steps into the octagon on July 11th, he will be the highest-paid fighter for a single bout in UFC history, shattering his own previous records. He noted that he makes 4 to 5 times more than anyone else on the roster. Yet, the irony is not lost on him. He is the highest-paid guy in the UFC, but still drastically underpaid compared to what top boxers, or even Jake Paul, are pulling in. Interestingly, Conor claims he doesn't care about landing on the Forbes list anymore. He says he is completely over the materialistic flexes and is stepping back into the cage purely for the love of the game and the thrill of competition. Things took a very serious turn when Conor addressed the massive medical controversy surrounding his broken leg. The UFC recently released a statement defending Conor after a news article questioned his medical clearance and USADA testing timeline. Conor was visibly frustrated, stating the massive public backlash was completely unwarranted. When he suffered the most devastating injury in combat sports, he faced a 20% chance of a non-union, meaning the bone would never fuse, and he would be left with a permanent limp. He argued that the ultimate goal should be getting the athlete walking again, not navigating bureaucratic red tape. He deliberately stepped out of the testing pool to prioritize healing and ensure he could walk normally again, blasting USADA for making the recovery process so incredibly difficult and stressful for the fighters. Conor is a master promoter, and he didn't hold back his criticism of how the UFC is currently operating their mega events. He specifically pointed to the recent Noche UFC event at the Vegas Sphere. While he praised the visual production, he was highly critical of the UFC's failure to prop up their own fighters. Instead of spotlighting UFC luminaries in the crowd to build future storylines, the broadcast focused heavily on boxers and outside celebrities. Conor believes the UFC is the highest performing asset under the TKO umbrella and brings in massive cash profits. Because of that, he thinks they need to break the bank. He wants live music, massive spectacles, and Super Bowl-level production for every single card to properly elevate the athletes who are risking their lives inside the cage. So, what happens after these next two fights are completely wrapped up? Will Conor McGregor actually follow through and test the open free agency market for the first time in his legendary career? With massive streaming giants like Netflix aggressively entering the live combat sports space and unlimited Saudi money completely restructuring the sport of boxing, the global landscape has completely changed. Conor heavily hinted that if the UFC brass steps up and offers him an undeniable, absolutely unbelievable contract extension before that final fight in 2027, he will gladly sign on the dotted line. He genuinely wants to stay with the UFC, but he clearly wants to be valued for his true metric worth. If they attempt to lowball him, he is fully prepared to walk out of the building and see what the multi-billion-dollar open market has to offer. Whichever way this shakes out, July 11th is going to permanently alter the entire landscape of modern mixed martial arts. If Conor wins, his leverage skyrockets to a level we have never seen in sports history. If he loses, the UFC's 2027 timeline might turn into his permanent retirement. I want to hear from the real fight fans down below. What do you guys honestly think is going to happen? Does Conor completely spark Max Holloway in Las Vegas, or does the Blessed Express derail the comeback train entirely? And do you think Dana White will ever let him hit true free agency? Drop your predictions in the comments right now. I read and reply to as many as I can. Before you head out, make sure to absolutely smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Minseo MMA. Thank you so much for watching, keep training hard, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.